Celeste poured 2 glasses of white wine. She didn't even ask how the meeting went. She knew. "You've reached level 3, she said. "One more, and Zurich is yours." I set my wine down, still standing. "I want to know what this really is," I said. "Is it just a control experiment? A secret club? Or something darker?" Celeste studied me for a long moment. Then she said, "It's evolution, Parker." She gestured to the mirror behind her. "What did you see in the boardroom today?" "What did they see?" I hesitated. "They saw competence, calm, authority." "And did they care whether it came in trousers or a skirt?" she asked. I shook my head. "No," I said slowly. "They didn't." Celeste's smile was like a secret unfolding. "Exactly. Because power is not what you wear. It's what you believe when you wear it." I was on my way out when I noticed something strange, an open manila folder on her desk. Half tucked beneath a stack of notes, the top page read. Subject, Donovan, Miles. Level 5 progression, emotional stability, declining. Recommended action, phase out. My blood froze. Phase out? I snapped a quick picture on my phone while Celeste was in the other room. Miles, who welcomed me, mentored me, guided me, was being discarded like a test subject. Suddenly, I remembered something Miles once told me at the bookstore. The circle lifts you until it no longer needs you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, still half-dressed in the pencil skirt and blouse I hadn't yet dared to take off, staring at the blurry photo I had snapped from Celeste's desk. Subject, Donovan, Miles. Level 5 progression, emotional stability, declining. Recommended action, phase out. Phase out wasn't corporate lingo. It was sterilized execution. Cold. Final. And Miles had been the first to make me feel like I wasn't insane inside this twisted world. What had he said during our first circle meeting? I walked into that investor meeting more focused than I've ever been. Had he been lying? Or worse, was he breaking? I couldn't shake the feeling that the circle wasn't designed to empower people like me. It was designed to remake them. Rewire them. Strip them down until nothing remained but what Celeste wanted to build. I had to know more. NovaSpark Internal Archive. The company didn't advertise its physical archive, but I'd discovered its location months ago while researching board member histories. It lived in the sublevels, floor B2, off-limits to most employees. Except, apparently, not to level 3 circle members. My silver circle card beeped once, then unlocked the biometric scanner. The doors hissed open. The archive was quiet. Sterile. Temperature-controlled and dim. And it held everything. I searched for Miles Donovan and found a sealed record marked Restricted Elevation Stage. It required a second access key. But while skimming through less protected documents, I stumbled upon something worse. Protocol Indigo. It wasn't a name. It was a project. A behavioral compliance program built around 3 stages of social dissonance. Deconstruction of gender identity. Reinforcement through isolation and secrecy. Submission via role reassignment. And every circle member had been profiled against it, including me. There was a photo in the folder, me, from behind, wearing the blue pencil skirt. Date stamped, yesterday. I staggered back. They had cameras. They had been watching all along. Secret meeting, Back Alley Cafe, West Queen Anne. I messaged Miles from a burner account I set up through an encrypted server. P, I need to see you. M, I shouldn't. P, it's urgent. They're targeting you. M, 7 p.m. Café Volare. No one can follow you. When I arrived, Miles was already there, hood up, sitting in the farthest booth, sipping black tea like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He looked tired. Smaller somehow. I knew, he said, eyes darting to the door. Eventually, they'd mark me unstable. You're not, I told him. They're manipulating us. I was unstable, Parker, he whispered. But not before the circle. After. Do you know what level 5 is? I shook my head. Miles leaned in, voice like sandpaper. They make you disappear. Not literally. Not physically. They erase the you that came into Nova Spark. They assign you a new name. A new role. A new identity. One that never existed before. I felt cold. Like transitioning someone into a new persona. He nodded. Like a permanent character you never agreed to write. Miles handed me a flash drive. I copied what I could. If they find out, I'm gone. But you? You're still new. They trust you. Use that. As I turned to leave, Miles grabbed my wrist. You want Zurich, he said. Then ask yourself, who's Parker Gray when you finally get there? Because Celeste already has an answer. You just haven't heard it yet. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a budget hotel under a fake name, Jamie Hill, the name on my oldest forgotten email account. The flash drive Miles gave me felt heavier than titanium. It wasn't just data. It was truth. And maybe evidence. In a room lit only by the soft glow of the desk lamp and the blue light of my laptop, I plugged in the drive. What I saw next changed everything. 1. Project, Nova Protocol, the blueprint. The first document was a PDF labeled Psychological Reconditioning Framework version 3.7. It began with this chilling line. The most effective control is not fear. It's transformation so complete the subject believes it was their idea. The pages that followed laid out a methodical program of identity erosion and reinvention. Stage 1, controlled submission through taboo, introducing a symbol of surrender, lingerie, clothing, accessories. Stage 2, ritual reinforcement via social stakes, promotion, exclusivity, secret praise. Stage 3, dissociation from prior identity. New pronouns, new roles, new behavioral patterns. Stage 4, the lock, final act of voluntary compliance. A choice that feels personal but is fully orchestrated. Each member of the circle had gone through these phases. The files contained personality assessments, custom reconditioning plans, even voice logs from Celeste's private interviews. And then I found something marked Gray, P. Candidate Track. It was dated 3 months before I even applied to Nova Spark. Gray exhibits high-functioning dissociation potential. Deep need for validation through excellence. Gender rigidity masks compliance instincts. Recommending full entry trial through Celeste model, romantic authority plus transference-based reinforcement. They had been targeting me from the beginning. I sat back, shaking, staring at the blinking cursor. How much of my success, my choices, had been mine? Wearing the lingerie to the gala. Reciting the vow. Walking into Eden Tower in heels. I had told myself I was in control. But had I been led? Trained? I barely recognized myself anymore. Not just the clothes. The way I moved. Spoke. Hesitated. The subtle curve to my hands when I gestured. The softness I'd practiced. The silences I now filled with measured glances instead of words. Was I Parker Gray? Or just Celeste's newest creation? I stood outside Celeste's office, flash drive in my pocket. My reflection in the mirrored elevator doors looked like something out of a fashion magazine. Gray sheath dress. Heels. Pale nude lipstick. Hair lightly styled in waves. A look that had once felt foreign, now felt second nature. When her assistant waved me in, I expected to feel rage. But what I felt instead was calculation. Celeste rose from her desk as if she'd been expecting this exact moment. You saw it, she said. I figured Miles wouldn't stay silent forever. I closed the door behind me, leaving the world out there. You manipulated me. She didn't deny it. I shaped you, she corrected. Like I shape all my best. You were raw or I refined you. And if I walk away now? I asked. She smiled softly. You won't. She walked around the desk and handed me a sleek envelope. Inside, my Zurich contract. Final. Signed. Except, not under Parker Gray. It was signed. Paige Gray. Director, European Expansion. My hands shook. Why? I asked. Because Paige is who Zurich needs. Who you've become. And if you really think this identity was mine to create, she leaned in, voice like velvet fire, then you never understood your own hunger in the first place. She placed a mirrored compact on the desk and opened it. Look. Do you see weakness? Or do you see someone finally awake? I looked. And for the first time, I wasn't sure. I didn't sign the Zurich contract. Not yet. Celeste didn't push. She simply smiled and said, take the weekend. Reflect. Zurich will wait. But the circle doesn't. Then she dismissed me like I was her prized violin, needing a final polish before the grand concert. But I wasn't the same instrument anymore. I was Paige now, or at least, that's who she had drawn from Parker's bones. And maybe, part of me had chosen this new self. Worn it long enough that it stopped feeling like costume and started feeling like skin. But choosing meant power. And I needed to know who had chosen first. Miles's apartment, Belltown. I hadn't seen him in over a week, not since the flash drive, not since I realized he was a pawn discarded just before I was crowned. When I knocked, the door creaked open a few inches. Don't tell me you came to thank me, Miles said, dark circles under his eyes, stubble thicker, the faint scent of lavender still lingering in the air. I didn't, I replied. I came because I think there's still something you haven't told me. He stepped aside without another word. His apartment was nearly stripped. Boxes lined the walls. The bookshelf was empty. The clothes rack in the corner held only skirts and blouses, every suit he'd once worn gone. You're leaving, I said quietly. I was Paige before you were Paige, he muttered. Only difference is, I forgot how to be anyone else. He pulled out a worn manila envelope from beneath the couch cushion and tossed it onto the table. Celeste Durand, internal psych eval, confidential. My heart stopped. You got this from the archive? Miles smirked. No. She left it in plain sight. Probably didn't think I'd read it. Inside were clinical notes from a NovaSpark board evaluation, dated 12 years ago, back when Celeste had first been recruited to lead the European sector. At the time, she wasn't known as Celeste. Her name had been Caleb Duras. Male. Brilliant. Untouchable. But also rigid, detached, emotionally unyielding. The board believed Caleb couldn't lead creatives. Couldn't relate. One psychologist's note stood out. Subject would benefit from radical empathy modeling. Immersion into opposing identity may trigger critical rewiring. There were progress updates, and then, a final entry. Subject has voluntarily assumed new identity as Celeste Durand. Full social immersion successful. Confidence, adaptability, influence, off the charts. Recommend total memory suppression of prior role in all company archives. I felt like the floor fell away from me. Celeste wasn't just the architect of this system. She was its first experiment. She didn't build the circle from control, I whispered. She built it from survival. Miles sat across from me, glass of whiskey in hand. She became who they needed, and then made the rest of us prove we could do the same. But she never told anyone where it started. He looked at me, eyes soft for the first time in days. You still want Zurich? I didn't answer. Because suddenly, Zurich wasn't the prize anymore. Truth was, I called an emergency circle gathering. My level 3 access granted me temporary authority to convene it, though I knew Celeste would hear about it within seconds. When the others arrived, Miles trailing in behind me, I stood at the front of the velvet-draped room and laid the psych file on the table. This is where it started, I said. The circle wasn't designed to awaken us. It was built to mirror her. We've all been chasing the ghost of a woman who doesn't even remember who she used to be. Murmurs filled the room. Charlotte, level 4, raised a trembling hand. Are you saying we're all just her reflections? I'm saying, I replied, it's time we rewrite the rules. The doors slammed open, and she entered like a storm wrapped in silk. You went digging, she said calmly. You left the shovel, I replied. Celeste stepped forward. For the first time, she didn't seem invincible. Her posture was still straight, but her eyes, those infamous silver eyes, shimmered faintly. Not with fury. With fear. Do you remember him? I asked. Do you remember Caleb? The room went silent. Celeste took a long breath. I remember wanting so badly to become someone else that I didn't care what they erased to make it happen. I nodded. Then maybe we need to stop erasing. And start choosing. Celeste didn't speak. She stood in the center of the circle chamber, surrounded by the very people she'd shaped, watching as they absorbed the impossible truth. That the queen of Novaspark's psychological empire had once been one of us. A candidate. A man named Caleb. Broken and rebuilt in silence. And she had never told anyone. Miles leaned against the wall beside me, arms crossed, face unreadable. The others, Charlotte, Raina, Dom, even Arun, looked like statues frozen in indecision. I felt something rise in me, not vengeance, not even anger. Clarity. This was my moment. I think we all came here, I began, because we were told we had something to prove. That we weren't enough as we were. I turned slowly, looking each person in the eye. So we submitted. We transformed. We wore what they asked us to wear. Said what they wanted us to say. We made ourselves smaller, to become something bigger. Celeste's gaze flickered. But maybe what they feared wasn't our weakness, I continued, it was our capacity. Our ability to change, voluntarily. That's the most powerful thing in the world. Charlotte's voice cracked. What are you suggesting? I walked to the center of the room and picked up the silver circle card I had carried since level 2. I'm suggesting we take this, I held it up, and we decide what it means. Not Celeste. Not the board. Us. Then I dropped it on the table. Miles dropped his next. Followed by Charlotte. One by one, they relinquished the symbol of silent obedience. And in doing so, took back control. Celeste exhaled slowly and sat down. It was the first time I had ever seen her do that, sit without commanding. I thought if I could help others through what I endured, I could make the pain mean something. She looked at me, eyes suddenly vulnerable. I never wanted it to become doctrine. I nodded gently. Then help us change it. Back in her office, the Zurich contract still sat untouched on Celeste's desk. Only now, there were 2 versions. One listed Parker Gray, Director, European Expansion. Standard Relocation Clause, Traditional PR Onboarding. The other read Paige Gray, Director, European Expansion. Internal Division Head, Identity Development and Reinvention Program. With full autonomy. You knew I'd rewrite the system, didn't you? I asked. Celeste gave a half smile. I didn't know. I hoped. I lifted the pen. And I signed Paige Gray. The view from my new office overlooked Lake Zurich, crystal blue and open, untouched by expectation. I wore a slate gray suit, genderless, sharp, exactly as I wanted it. My staff of 25 included people from the circle, and many who had never heard of it. They didn't need to. Because the new rule was simple. You don't have to erase who you were to become who you want to be. My first act? Burn the protocols. Then I wrote a new one. Just before I left for the day, a message popped up on my secure line. From Miles. Subject, the blue box. Thought you'd want to see where it all began. Attached was a photo. A silk box. A pair of peach lace panties folded neatly inside. And a note beneath it in my own handwriting, dated from weeks ago. Power isn't what they give you. It's what you choose to carry. I smiled. Not because it was over. But because I had finally chosen the weight for myself. 1 year later. Zurich was colder than New York, but I had stopped dressing to please the weather months ago. Now I dressed to define it. Today, that meant a pair of polished knee-high boots, a tailored indigo trench coat, and a silk scarf with subtle floral embroidery, femininity woven with defiance. The kind that no longer needed permission. The plaque outside my door no longer read Director of European Expansion. It now read Paige Gray, Chief Architect, Identity Evolution Division. Lead who you are. Evolve by choice. The office buzzed with an energy I hadn't seen in my early days at Nova Spark. People walked differently now. Bolder. Softer. Stranger. Themselves. Because the circle was no longer a secret. What started as a hidden loyalty cult had been restructured into a program that encouraged identity exploration, not just gender-based, but behavioral, cultural, psychological. New hires were given a card not with a test, but with an invitation. You don't have to be one version of yourself forever. Try another. For a day. A week. For you. Then decide what's real. The change was voluntary. Every part of it. No protocols. No surveillance. No hierarchy of secrets. Just guided transformation for anyone who wanted it. Miles returned last quarter. Not as a subordinate. Not as a consultant. But as the first participant in the Redefinition Grant Program, which helped former Circle members re-enter Nova Spark in roles of their choosing. He now runs a creative lab in Berlin focused on fluid design principles. No suits. No masks. No need to disappear anymore. We video chat once a week. Sometimes in lipstick, sometimes in stubble. I've never seen him happier. As for Celeste, she retired quietly, stepping down just after Zurich launched the initiative. No press release. No farewell gala. No interviews. Some say she vanished into the Swiss countryside. But others swear they've seen her at identity salons in Amsterdam, sketching quietly in notebooks, watching new generations find themselves without ever knowing who first lit the path. She left me only one note before disappearing. You were never my student, Paige. You were the system's correction. Make sure no one ever needs to be broken again just to belong. I still keep the original silver circle card in my drawer. Not as a symbol of shame, but as a relic of who I had to be. Before I could become who I chose to be. And sometimes, late at night, when the world feels cold again and the mirrors reflect too sharply, I take it out and whisper. I belong to no one. I obey only truth. My pride is no longer a mask. It is my voice. And with that, I begin again. As Paige. As me.